Coming up on News 2, the Department of Education provides final testimony to the Senate's Committee on Education and Workforce Development. A fowl problem exists, says one resident who explains why the chickens that roam in her neighborhood are causing headaches.
President Obama chooses a new budget chief as the standoff over billions in budget cuts enters its third day.
Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing. Education officials testified Monday before the Senate's Education and Workforce Development Committee. In their testimony, they outlined several concerns, from a lack of buses to vacant positions. News 2's Erica Bivens brings us more from the hearing.
Although Education Commissioner Dr. Laverne Terry was not present Monday, several other education officials provided updates and listed many concerns facing the territory's educational system.
Vacancies are not limited to instructional staff. We must talk about nurses, cafeteria workers, counselors, secretaries, and an on-site maintenance person.
Officials stated only 5 out of 16 schools in the St. Thomas-St. John district have nurses, but the department also needs staffing in ESL or English as a second language.
There are also 4 critically needed positions in each district for a total of 8 territory-wide.
550 students are enrolled in ESL in the St. Thomas-St. John district compared to 220 in St. Croix, but there's only 11 ESL teachers in each district, and the shortage may be the reason why ESL students did not meet proficiency in vital scores for reading and mathematics. Another concern?
We need more buses. At the present time, schools are unable to begin and end at the same time. In the morning, students are at school an hour before it starts in some schools. And in the afternoon, some students are at school 2 hours after school ends, waiting for the bus.
Officials also say student attendance and tardiness is a continual problem.
Frequent absences and tardiness are contributing to factors to some schools not meeting adequate yearly progress standards. This is particularly true for schools in the St. Croix district.
Despite reduced funding, staffing, and other resources, officials say they strive to perform the best they can within those constraints. For News 2, I'm Erica Bivens.
Now, Monday's hearing was a continuation of the committee's February 25th meeting, which also dealt with updates on the status of education in the territory. St. Thomas-St. John Board of Elections member Wilma Marsh Monsanto says she doesn't appreciate not being invited to what she calls a secret meeting. According to Monsanto, several board members met Thursday without notifying her. However, board members did not take any formal action. According to Mabel Maduro, Deputy Supervisor of Elections, there is a scheduled March 14th district meeting on St. Thomas and a joint board meeting scheduled for Friday, March 15th. Police are investigating a shooting on St. Thomas after they discovered the body of a deceased male around 8:15 a.m. this morning at the Old Texaco gas station near the Nada intersection. The deceased male has been identified as 38-year-old Jean Attignal, who is a Haitian national. His body was found slumped over in the driver's seat of a pickup truck. Police said the body appeared to have sustained multiple gunshot wounds. Detectives confirmed that the victim was shot several hours earlier. Emergency medical technicians indicated that Attignal died at the scene. Multiple shell casings were collected at the scene, and a handgun was also found inside the vehicle. VIPD investigators are appealing to the public and others in the Haitian community to provide any information that can assist investigators in solving this murder. Fire Services Assistant Director Darrell Georges says the investigation into the fire is an update. An autopsy is scheduled to be performed on Wednesday to determine the cause of death and confirm the identity of the man who perished in the Friday afternoon fire. Alongside the arson investigators are police forensics officers who are working to determine whether foul play was a factor in the death of the unidentified man. At the scene, firefighters found the part wood, part masonry structure engulfed in flames. They fully extinguished the blaze in about 15 minutes at the house listed as number 10 OV Commandant Gata. Administration officials at All Saints Cathedral School evacuated the campus as a safeguard. The school sits just to the north of the fire scene. No other structure was threatened or involved in the blaze. Local radio stations on St. Croix have recently fallen victim to copper thieves. Thieves stole about 600 feet of copper wiring from stations managed by JKC Communications, causing the station to be down for 3 days, a problem that station reps call an act of terrorism. NEWS2's Janisha John brings us this story.
Copper thieves have become a nightmare for some in the territory, as local radio stations managed by JKC Communications were the most recent victims to have about 600 feet of copper stolen.
The underground copper wiring was stolen. The extent of going through this process, to pull it through the underground conduit, they had to have a truck. So in other words, you can't just pull it by hand. So once that's pulled, we are literally off the air. We went off the air probably Sunday night, and of course it was a surprise to all of us. And the net effect was that we were off the air, through Tuesday and part of Wednesday. So it created a tremendous strain on the radio station.
Having been down for nearly 3 days, it's the 6th time in 6 different locations that JKC Communications has had to repair the damage from copper thieves, a problem that some say ultimately affects the territory's safety.
The cost of getting us back on the air was somewhere between $5,000 and $6,000, and it creates a strain on the community as well, the potential, because we are an emergency broadcast station and listened to in a crisis. For instance, let's say we had a tsunami or we had an earthquake, there would be no chance for us to be responding.
Copper thieves often sell the metal illegally in the territory, having stolen from companies like Innovative and Water and Power Authority to now even targeting homes.
It's gotten so bad that we have had calls on the radio station with people that have had their copper stolen while they are sleeping in their house. It's nothing more than terrorism. Literally, these people that are stealing this copper are terrorists.
Janisha John, NEWS2.
The Virgin Islands National Guard hosted a St. Kitts and Nevis military unit for training last week. 5 members from the St. Kitts and Nevis Defense Force took part in a 3-day training exchange at the Ving Spratt Hall facility on St. Croix. The course covered Army basic instruction and the military decision-making process, and both groups were able to learn from each other. Ving officials, along with the Military Liaison Office at the U.S. Embassy for Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, coordinated the training in an effort to increase cooperation and support between the island nations. Turning our attention stateside, Congress returns to work this week with no plans to reverse the $85 billion in automatic government spending cuts that kicked in 3 days ago. Tara Mergener is at the White House with the latest developments.
President Obama talked about the tough road ahead as he announced he wants Sylvia Matthews Burwell to head the Office of Management and Budget.
I'm absolutely confident that she's going to do a great job at OMB, and those values are especially important to remember now as we continue to try and find a way forward in light of the budget cuts that are already starting to cost us jobs and our economy.
If confirmed, Burwell, who currently runs the Walmart Foundation, will take over as budget chief as the government works to implement $85 billion in across-the-board spending cuts. President Obama reached out to Republicans over the weekend to look for ways to reverse some of the cuts. It's not clear if the gesture helped. The Obama administration is hoping as Americans start to see and feel the effects of the cuts, Republicans will come around to making a deal. The old debate over taxes is still standing in the way of compromise. Democrats want a mix of tax hikes and spending cuts. Republicans say they will not agree to any tax increase.
So far, I haven't heard a single Senate Republican say they'd be willing to raise a dime in taxes to turn off the sequester.
The House is expected to vote this week on a spending plan that will keep the government funded, but lock in many of the automatic cuts. Both Republicans and Democrats have to agree on a budget for the remainder of 2013 by the end of the month to avoid a government shutdown.
Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano says U.S. airports, including Los Angeles International and O'Hare International in Chicago, are already experiencing delays as a result of the automatic spending cuts. Keeping our eye on the economy, investors will get more clues on America's economy later this week with reports on productivity and the job market. The government's monthly unemployment report comes out on Friday. And get ready for more changes on Facebook. The social networking site is expected to unveil a new look for its main news feed at an event on Thursday. Changes to users' profile layouts may also be announced. This is a New York Stock Exchange Scotiabank Stock Market Watch. Everything up, the Dow 38, NASDAQ 12, S&P 7. Coming up on News 2, Scotiabank says it's all about giving back. A team of Scotiabank volunteers assisted with preparing and distributing food for the homeless and less fortunate on St. Thomas. We'll be right back. St. Croix family has been fighting the problem of noisy neighbors for the last several years. Although the problem has been going on for much longer, it's a problem of chickens. And Mr. and Mrs. Samuel, who've gone as far as the Superior Court, haven't gotten a good night's rest in years. News 2's Erica Parsons has that story.
Crowing roosters and clucking chickens are what Doris Samuel and her husband hear all day long and all night long.
I try to lay down around 9 o'clock. And maybe I can lay down and sleep until about 11:30. Then from 11:30 all the way to 3:30 in the morning, that's the roosters are crowing. From 3:30 on, the choir gets even stronger.
Doris Samuel has lived there for more than 20 years, her husband more than 40, and she says this has been going on for the last 10 of them.
My husband can't watch sports on Sunday. I'm having headaches because I can't get an 8-hour sleep in a week. And this has been going on too long, over 10 years.
Since 2009, she's reported her case to the police, to senators, and the Department of Planning and Natural Resources, who cited her neighbor twice for raising livestock illegally. Samuel even took the case to court, but neither she nor DPNR officials or the police officer were allowed in the courtroom to present their side.
How can you make a decision when I brought this case to court and I can't even speak to give my part of what the trouble is? So we were given a decision unfairly by the court.
It comes down to interpretation. At last count, Samuel says the police reported at least 30 caged chickens next door. DPNR says based on the residential zoning, livestock and poultry aren't allowed. Judge Jessica Gallivan said the R1 zoning permits agricultural use as a matter of right and dismissed the case, but DPNR officials maintain livestock farming is not permitted. Ms. Samuel says the constant noise has affected her family's well-being, not just with their peace being gone, but the smell it brings as well, and she doesn't care what her neighbor does with the chickens, she just wants them gone.
I'm tired of it, and I want to resolve.
Erica Parsons, News 2.
Each year around the world, International Women's Day is celebrated on March 8th. The 2013 theme of the International Women's Day.com's website is the Gender Agenda Gaining Momentum. And in the Virgin Islands, our theme is Every Woman Counts, pouring support into the life of every woman, promoting every woman doing her part as an encourager of other women. In observance of International Women's Day, the YWCA, in partnership with Senator Jeanette Billing-Young, is hosting a meet and greet and VI Women Speak Conversations with My Sisters event. That's on Friday, March 8th from 5:45 to 8 p.m. at the Windward Passage Hotel's conference room. Women of all ages encouraged to participate in this free celebratory event and moreover come and let their voices be heard regarding both the opportunities and obstacles for VI women in the territory. Several roundtable conversations will be held. And March is Women's History Month, as we just mentioned, and in celebration, TV2 takes a look at the work of the territory's First Lady Cecile DeYoung. Since 2007, Mrs. DeYoung has promoted and established several causes, including 2 local chapters of CHAD, which is Children and Adults with Attention Deficit and Hyperactivity Disorder, an initiative to help raise awareness about the disorder and support affected families. She also served as the spokesperson for the Big Read initiative to improve the territory's literacy rate. Mrs. DeYoung serves as an advocate for improved care for the elderly and individuals with disabilities. Well, 13 All Saints students are heading to the International Model United Nations Conference. It is the second year for the school. The delegates will be joining over 3,000 participants from 150 schools and over 20 countries to represent their assigned delegations in simulated committee meetings and plenary sessions. This year, Model UN delegates are representing Libya and one delegate, the European Union.
Selection is done by any student that would like to will take part. They're then tasked to do a topic paper that they will actually use at the meeting and that they will actually speak upon. So there's research put into it. Topic papers are provided and sent to the delegation or to the coordinators in New York City, and then from there they're going to bring their topics, what they'd like to get across about the topic at hand for this delegation or this convention, so that they can speak further.
Scotiabank says it's all about giving back. A team of Scotiabank volunteers assisted with preparing and distributing food to the homeless and less fortunate on St. Thomas this past Saturday. A monetary donation was also provided to assist with the cost of the food. Through the Scotiabank Bright Future program, charitable and volunteer efforts are coordinated as a response to the needs of the local community in the areas of art, education, social services, and healthcare. Stick around, your News 2 AccuWeather forecast is coming up next.